Joining us momentarily, Denver Riggleman, Republican running for Congress, 5th District in Virginia. He's up against Leslie Cockburn. I'm reading her book, by the way, Dangerous Liaisons. And Denver is joining us now. Denver, great to have you, man.
Good morning. How are you, Sir John?
I've never been better, and I really was anxious to get you on today, Denver. As you know, this Helsinki meeting, look, from your perspective, I mean, your opponent is a researcher, a historian, and a writer. You, on the other hand, lived through a lot of this, what is going on right now. You were the first arrival militarily in Afghanistan. You planned the bombings there. You planned the capture. You planned the tracking of bin Laden. You planned all that, so you're very much involved in these type of military world affairs. But let's get to the Helsinki meeting, all right? How do you see this going, and what are you looking for the president to accomplish today? Because he's meeting as we speak, Denver.
I think all this has to do, actually, with business. Not only... of course they're going to talk military strategy. They're going to talk policy. They're going to talk, who's meddling with whom. And I think a lot of it's pretty funny because both of them are following a narrative that's already been directed, that they want to direct, and also by their foreign policy folks. I think what he's going over there to do is to say, listen, let's stop enough of the meddling. Let's look at what we can do to help in our business interests. Let's see what we can do to make sure that this ridiculousness doesn't continue. But when you talked about history, I started giggling. Russia's been doing this since the Communist International in 1919, where, they try to get into governments. They try to make sure that things are navigable for them, make sure they're getting the deals that they want from the communist area from the communist era on to now. And so it's sort of funny, John, because this is something that I've been dealing with for frickin' years. I was in Eastern Europe. We understand what's going on. I don't think anybody's stupid. And I think this narrative, what you said about they've written the article a week ago, I think you're right. It was the same as the Supreme Court nomination. The Supreme Court Justice blank is a despicable human being.
Right.
They just waited for the person to be nominated, then they put in the name. I think people are exhausted by it. I see it out here in the 5th District. Everybody, there's Russian exhaustion. They're ready to move on with their lives and actually have real policy discussions and get the economic growth going in the 5th District. So, John, really, I think there's Russian exhaustion right now. I just think it's out there.
I think you're right about this, and people are just sick of it because there is no evidence of any collusion. Every time I get in CNN and they bring this up, I'm like, give me somebody on your network, give me one shred of evidence of any actual collusion, which means that the Trump campaign and the Russian government colluded with each other in order to get a result. They can't find evidence of that. 18 months, $100 million, 50 prosecutors, investigators, and they have zip. They have nothing.
Zippy.
Right?
They have nothing. And I think I just saw this morning, John, was that they were going to try to get part of the investigation done by September?
Yes.
I feel like they're waiting for the primaries politically to see if they can use this as a talking point for Democrats. They don't want to finish this right now. They want to wait to finish the whole thing after the elections. They want to make sure this becomes a political talking point through November. I know that, but I'm really interested to see what my opponent has to say about it. I think we could have a pretty rousing discussion on somebody who's been there, like me, and somebody who's wrote about it, like her, and let's see what happens.
Well, should we have a debate? I'll host one. You want a debater?
Oh, we're good. Oh, absolutely. We already have one debate scheduled. We actually wanted to go to her. I'm okay being the visiting team on the first debate. We're going to Rappahannock on September 5th. I think around October 8th we have another debate that's going to be televised. Then we're going to try to get to Danville and have a debate after that. So we're looking at 3 right now, John, but I'm happy to debate her with you.
Well, I think it'll be interesting. I am reading her book, Dangerous Liaisons, Leslie Cockburn, and she's a great writer. I mean, she's a very gifted writer, and I think maybe she should keep doing that because whether you like the book or not, just as reading it, I have to say I'm about halfway through reading it this weekend in between the baseball games I had. But she was a very good writer. I mean, she holds your attention. She has good stuff in it. So she's a very gifted author. And I know you would like for her to continue in that profession.
Well, J.K. Rowling wrote great fantasy books too. So I think, if you're a great writer, that's fine. I'm reading it also, as you know, John. So I've identified some things in there that, you sort of smile if you've done this for a living. And, like I said, it's like 2 10-year-olds just found out how to make hot dogs. There's some no-duh moments in there, but also some stuff that seems fabricated or it's not sourced very well.
All right. As I said, I'm not going to talk about it till I'm done with the whole thing and I can reflect on it. But let's get to a couple of the policy issues, and I'm going to ask Leslie the same thing when I get her on my show, and I just asked it to Dave. If you had the opportunity through me, what is the number one question that you want to ask Leslie Cockburn to get answered?
The number one question? Oh,
yes.
My goodness. The number one question for me?
Yes.
Would probably be this. If I had a question is, how would you grow the economy in Southside? And I think that's the number one question for me after being all around the state or all around the district for the past, 6 weeks. Visit all 21 counties now, and I think it would be an economics question about Southside and what's going on in the bottom tier of our district.
Let me ask that same question, Denver, back to you now, obviously having traveled the district. What do you think has to be done in order to grow the economy in the 5th District, get jobs, and get people employed? What do you need to do?
Absolutely. I know this, I'm not trying to be a geek, John, but I was reading Lee Iacocca, and he was talking about the evolution of economics, right, and that everybody has to adapt. But what I think happened was that we artificially suppressed manufacturing in Southside. Everything I've heard is about NAFTA. It's about trade. Everybody there is like, hey, we're okay with free trade, but we want fair trade. And these are even dairy farmers that are affected by trade. So I think it comes down to one thing, bringing back jobs, through manufacturing. We can do that again. When you see the abandoned tobacco warehouses, when you see the people who are sort of screaming, for help down there, they said there's really 3 things that they worry about. Number one is fair and free trade because, we still have dairy farmers, right, John? We still have tobacco farmers. Mm-hmm. We still have massive agriculture in the 5th District. We still have massive timber in the 5th District. So number one, free and fair trade. Number 2, the regulatory overreach of the government. I have never heard such anger about the multiple levels of regulation that destroy jobs in not only this country but in the 5th District. I think the third thing is taxes. The federal tax cuts actually saved some of these businesses to let them survive another day. So I think when you look at it, we have to deregulate. We have to continue the tax cuts, make sure that they're permanent. But the third thing we do is we have to work for the 5th District for our specific types of manufacturing, our specific types of talent. We have to adapt and we have to grow jobs. There's also a fourth thing, and that fourth thing is infrastructure growth. So everybody there is bemoaning just the lack of infrastructure down there. So it's been pretty interesting, John. That's how I would answer the question. Let's actually have somebody who's run a business before, come up with some solutions down the 5th, especially down the South Side.
You've obviously traveled the district extensively. It's so big. I think it's bigger than New Jersey, basically. Since you've been the nominee, Denver, in about a month or so, by the way, we're with Denver Riggleman. He's the Republican candidate for Congress in the 5th District. This is an open election replacing Tom Garrett, who retired. November 8th will be decided. It's Denver Riggleman. He's the Republican nominee. He's a business owner and a former military intel officer. And he is running against Leslie Cockburn, who was an author who had written one noted book called Dangerous Liaisons. So I've got all that out. So Denver, in traveling the district, what is the one thing you've learned that was surprising to you?
What's surprising to me is that the suffering is real, especially in areas, and I guess, you almost get emotional when you go to Lunenburg and Mecklenburg and Halifax and Franklin and Bedford and Pennsylvania, right? And then you go to Cumberland, Prince Edward. When you hit some of the southern tier counties, Campbell, Brunswick, when you roll up into Appomattox, you sort of start to get stunned at the lack of activity on Main Street. And John, you go to some place that's sort of booming like Farmville, right? Which you look around like this is being done right. And then you go to somewhere like Chase City, you're like, why is there a difference between Farmville and Chase City? Why is there a difference between Chase City and South Hill? Right? Why is there a difference between Chase City and Victoria? Why is there a difference between Victoria and Cambridge? And, so as you go to all these towns and you look, you see that the suffering is real. And you see that Main Street it's not hopping anymore, brother. And I think when you talk to, oh my goodness, hundreds of businesses now, I would say, you start to see that all of them are making it despite the government. And I want to say that again. All of them are making it despite the government. They're making it despite the overregulation. They're making it despite the federal, state, and local tax burden that's destroying them. They're making it despite the regulatory in your pockets every day crushing stupidity that comes from the government. And I think that's why when I talk about releasing the government from, helping them anymore, that's what they want. They don't want any more help from the government. Let them do it on their own. And I think that's the thing that's been so evident to me as I go from farm to farm, from business to business, is that these people make it despite anything that's arrayed against them. And if I get emotional about it, it's because I understand small business and what they're going through.
Well, a small businessman yourself, obviously you fought a lot of battles. You've got the firsthand experience for that. By the way, we're with Denver Riggleman. He's a Republican candidate for the 5th District for Congress. That is the south side part of Virginia. It is bigger than New Jersey, so it's a huge district. You can learn more information by going to denverforcongress.com, denverforcongress.com. Denver, I got a couple more minutes. Let's get to immigration. It looks like Trump's zero tolerance policy is out the window. The Border Patrol is now back to catch and release, which is not a policy because you just come over and that's it. You can't get put back now. And also you've got the Democrats calling for the abolition of ICE. If you get to Congress, I mean, what is your immigration policy?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, gosh. That is probably the biggest question. John, number one, no, I can't imagine anybody abolishing ICE. I just want to – you said that last thing. I've worked with DHS. These guys are incredible professionals. They come on. Anybody – that is going to be a question I ask. I will say it's another question. Who in the heck in the Democratic Party wants to abolish ICE? And if there's anybody in the 5th District, I want to know. As far as immigration policy, at some point Congress has to fix it, and I'm going to do everything I can. My immigration policy is this. Secure the border. You have to have defense in depth. Before you deal with anything with amnesty, before you deal with anything when it comes to point of entry or illegal crossings on the border, before you deal with any of that, you have to secure the border. Once you secure the border, and you have to do it, then you talk about dealing with the illegal immigration pouring into this country. Because if we secure the border, we get rid of some things. You ready for this? Criminal activity, child trafficking, opioids, fentanyl. We also get rid of state-sponsored stuff because we knew what's happening in South America, and that's all I can go into. The fact is I've done border ops. I've been down there for passive detection, and you have to secure the border. Then we'll deal with any type of questions that come with amnesty, which I'm against, or we'll deal with any type of questions that come with fast-tracking immigration. Let's secure the border first.
All right, we're out of time. I want to thank Denver Riggleman for being with us. He is running for Congress in Virginia, Republican in the 5th District. More information, go to denverforcongress.com, denverforcongress.com. Denver Riggleman, thanks for being with us. Always appreciate your perspective and your energy. Thank you.